I surprised my cheating wife with divorce papers at her secret hotel getaway affair. I found out about Bethany's affair the way most people do, by accident. She'd left her laptop open while taking a shower. I was looking for our tax documents when I saw the message notification pop up. Can't wait to see you this weekend at the Grandview Resort, room 412. David, her yoga instructor, the one she'd been taking extra sessions with for the past 4 months. My stomach dropped. We'd been married 8 years. I thought we were happy. Sure, things had been routine lately, but I never imagined she was stepping out on us. I scrolled through their conversation. Months of planning secret meetups, photos I didn't want to see, details about how much better he was than me in every possible way. The worst part? This weekend was supposed to be our anniversary getaway. She'd suggested the Grandview Resort herself. Let's do something special, she'd said, kissing my cheek. Just the two of us. Except it wasn't going to be just the two of us. I took screenshots of everything and called my brother. Pack divorce papers, he said immediately. He's a lawyer and had warned me about Bethany's behavior years ago. If you're going to confront her, do it right. I spent the next 2 days planning. Called my attorney, got the papers drawn up, and made my own reservation at the Grandview, room 414, right across the hall. Friday afternoon, I watched Bethany pack her bag with the lingerie I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. I'm so excited for this weekend, she said, not meeting my eyes. We really need this time together. We really do, I agreed. She left for the resort at 5 p.m., claiming she wanted to get there early and surprise me with champagne. I followed an hour behind. The Grandview Resort sits on a cliff overlooking Lake Marina. Beautiful place. Expensive. I'd actually proposed to Bethany here 9 years ago by the infinity pool. At the front desk, I confirmed she'd checked in. The clerk mentioned she'd specifically requested late checkout for Sunday, which was news to me since we'd planned to leave Saturday afternoon. I went to my room and waited. At 7:30 p.m., I heard voices in the hallway. Bethany's laugh, followed by a deeper male voice. My hands shook as I looked through the peephole. There she was, hanging all over David. Tall, muscular, the kind of guy who probably calls everyone bro. They disappeared into room 412. I waited until 9 p.m., then knocked. Bethany opened the door in a hotel robe, her hair disheveled. When she saw me, her face went through about 17 different emotions before settling on panic. Cameron, what are you doing here? I thought you weren't coming until tomorrow morning. Behind her, I could see David frantically pulling on his clothes. Change of plans, I said, pushing past her into the room. Hello, David. Nice to finally meet you properly. David looked like he wanted to jump off the balcony. Listen, man, I can explain. No need, I interrupted, pulling the manila envelope from my jacket. Bethany, these are for you. She stared at the envelope like it might explode. What is it? Divorce papers. Already filed. You've been served. The color drained from her face. Cameron, wait. We can talk about this. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I said calmly. 4 months of secret meetings, the Sunset Motel on Tuesdays, his apartment every Thursday, and now my anniversary weekend. David was backing toward the door. I'm just gonna stay, I said firmly. You're both going to want to hear this. Bethany sank onto the bed, the papers scattered around her. I know about the joint bank account you opened with David, the one you've been transferring money into from our savings. That's theft, by the way. My attorney is very interested in that. Her eyes widened. How did you... Bank statements. Amazing what you can find when you actually look. I turned to David. And you might want to call your wife, Trevor. Let her know where you are. His face went white. My wife? How do you know about... LinkedIn is public, buddy. Married to Patricia for 12 years. 2 kids. I'm sure she'd love to see the photos Bethany's been sending you. The room fell completely silent except for the sound of waves crashing outside. Bethany found her voice first. Cameron, please, we can work this out. It was a mistake. I love you. No, I said quietly. You love the idea of having both, but that's over now. I headed for the door, then stopped. Oh, and Bethany? The room is paid for through Sunday. Enjoy your weekend. It's the last thing I'm ever buying you. As I reached for the door handle, my phone buzzed with a text that made me smile. The text was from Patricia. Thank you for reaching out. I'll be at the resort in 30 minutes with divorce papers of my own. We should talk. I showed Bethany and David the message. David's face went from white to green. Wait, he stammered. You contacted my wife? 2 hours ago, I said. Sent her everything. Photos, messages, bank records. She was very grateful for the heads up. Bethany was hyperventilating. Cameron, this is insane. You're destroying lives over nothing. Nothing? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. 8 years of marriage is nothing? Our joint savings account is nothing? Our anniversary is nothing? I sat down across from them, suddenly feeling exhausted. You want to know the really sad part? I would have tried to work things out if you'd just been honest. If you'd come to me and said you were unhappy, we could have gone to counseling. We could have tried. Bethany was crying now. I wanted to tell you. I just didn't know how. But you knew how to lie to my face for 4 months. You knew how to steal our money. You knew how to plan a weekend getaway with another man using our anniversary as cover. David had been silent, but now he spoke up. Look, Cameron, I never meant for it to go this far. It just happened. It just happened, I repeated. Like you just happened to open a bank account together? Like you just happened to be planning to leave your wife? Like you just happened to be fucking mine in our anniversary hotel? Before David could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. That'll be Patricia, I said, standing up. I opened the door to find a petite woman with short blonde hair and fire in her eyes. She was holding a briefcase and looked like she could murder someone with her bare hands. Which one of you is David? She asked, stepping into the room. David raised his hand like he was in elementary school. Patricia, baby, I can explain. Don't, she cut him off. Just don't. She opened her briefcase and pulled out her own manila envelope. David Trevor Morrison, you are hereby served with divorce papers, adultery, abandonment, and financial misconduct. She slapped the papers against his chest so hard he stumbled backward. Financial misconduct? He asked weakly. Oh yes, Patricia said sweetly. Turns out when you open secret bank accounts and transfer money without your spouse's knowledge, that's a crime. The FBI is very interested in your little side business. My eyebrows shot up. FBI? Patricia smiled grimly. David here has been teaching more than yoga. He's been running a sophisticated blackmail operation, seduces married women, gets compromising photos and information, then extorts money from their husbands to keep quiet. The room fell dead silent. Bethany turned to stare at David. What is she talking about? Patricia pulled out a tablet and swiped through several photos. Recognize any of these women, David? Because they all have very similar stories. Yoga instructor, private sessions, secret weekends, and then their husbands start getting anonymous demands for money. She turned the tablet toward Bethany. Here's Rebecca Martinez. He got $40,000 from her husband. Jennifer Walsh, $60,000. Amanda Chen, $35,000. Bethany's face went white. David, tell me this isn't true. David's mouth opened and closed like a fish. It's not what it sounds like. Actually, it's exactly what it sounds like, Patricia continued. The FBI has been investigating him for 18 months. They were just waiting for enough evidence to make arrests. She looked directly at me. Your wife was supposed to be his next mark. They've been monitoring his communications. That bank account? It's been under surveillance for months. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Bethany was a target? Classic pattern, Patricia nodded. Lonely housewife, wealthy husband, marriage showing signs of strain. David would seduce them, get compromising evidence, then threaten to expose the affair unless the husband paid up. Bethany stood up shakily. David, is this true? Was this all fake? For the first time since I'd known him, David looked genuinely remorseful. Beth, it started that way, but I really did develop feelings for you. Feelings, she screamed. You were planning to blackmail my husband. Only at first, he protested. But then I realized Cameron would never pay. He's too stubborn, so I changed the plan. I was going to convince you to leave him and run away with me. Patricia laughed bitterly. With what money? You owe the IRS $200,000 in back taxes. Your yoga studio is 3 months behind on rent. You're about to be evicted from your apartment. The pieces were clicking into place for me. That's why you needed access to our savings account. You weren't planning a future with Bethany. You were planning to clean us out and disappear. David slumped against the wall. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed and the whole story came tumbling out. The original plan was simple. Seduce Bethany, get photos and evidence of the affair, then approach you with a demand for $50,000 to keep quiet. Most husbands pay to avoid the scandal and divorce. Bethany was staring at him in horror. You recorded us? Audio mostly. Some photos. The hotel has security cameras in the hallways. I know a guy who works here. My stomach turned. You've been recording her without consent? It was business, David said defensively. Nothing personal. Nothing personal! Bethany's voice rose to a shriek. I told you I loved you. I was ready to leave my husband for you. And I told you I loved you too, David shot back. That wasn't a lie, but love doesn't pay the bills. Patricia was taking notes on her phone. Keep talking, David. The FBI is going to love this confession. Wait, I said, processing everything. If the FBI has been monitoring his communications, they know about Bethany's involvement. Is she going to be charged with something? Patricia shook her head. She's considered a victim. The pattern is always the same. David targets vulnerable women and manipulates them into compromising positions. The Bureau has 18 other victims ready to testify. Bethany sank back onto the bed, looking completely devastated. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it, Patricia said firmly. This weekend was supposed to be the climax of his plan. He was going to stage a more serious affair scenario, maybe get you to say something about Cameron's business finances or personal secrets. Then he'd approach Cameron with both blackmail material and insider information. I felt sick. What kind of insider information? David wouldn't meet my eyes. You run a software company, government contracts, security clearance stuff. That information is worth a lot to the right people. You were planning to sell classified information? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It wasn't classified, David protested. Just proprietary. Client lists, pricing structures, upcoming contracts. Patricia held up her phone. I'm recording this, by the way. The FBI gave me permission to gather evidence. David's eyes widened. You're working with the FBI? Have been for 6 months, she said casually. Ever since they approached me about my husband's activities. They needed someone close to him to help gather evidence. The room spun around me. So you knew about this whole thing? I knew David was a criminal, Patricia said. I didn't know he was planning to target your wife specifically until this week. That's when I reached out to you. Bethany looked confused. You reached out to Cameron? When? Patricia smiled. Who do you think sent him that anonymous email about David's criminal background? Cameron. Check your spam folder from 3 days ago. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my emails. There it was, a message from a generic Gmail account with the subject line, your wife's yoga instructor. I deleted it without reading, assuming it was spam. Why didn't you just call the police? I asked. We needed evidence of active criminal intent, Patricia explained. David had to actually attempt the blackmail for the charges to stick. Plus, the FBI wanted to roll up his entire network. He's not working alone. As if on cue, there was another knock at the door. This time it was hotel security, followed by two people in dark suits who looked exactly like what you'd expect FBI agents to look like. David Morrison? The female agent asked. David nodded miserably. You're under arrest for extortion, fraud, conspiracy, and violations of federal computer crime statutes. As they read him his rights and cuffed him, the male agent turned to Patricia. Did you get the confession? She held up her phone. All of it, including the part about the classified information. What classified information? The agent asked sharply. He was planning to steal proprietary data from Cameron's government contracts, Patricia explained. The agent's expression darkened. That kicks this up to national security level. We'll need to debrief you extensively, Mr. Morrison. David was led away in handcuffs, still protesting that he'd never actually stolen anything. The agents told us they'd need formal statements from all of us, but that could wait until Monday. After they left, the three of us sat in the hotel room in stunned silence. Finally, Bethany spoke. Patricia, I'm so sorry. I had no idea he was married. If I'd known, you would have what? Patricia asked. Not slept with him? Or just felt bad about it? Bethany flinched. I would never have gotten involved if I'd known he had a wife and kids. But you were fine getting involved while you had a husband? The hypocrisy hit Bethany like a slap. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Cameron, I know you probably hate me right now. I don't hate you, I said quietly. I'm disappointed and hurt and confused, but I don't hate you. Patricia gathered her things. I should go. The kids are with my sister, but I need to get back to them. What will you tell them? I asked. The truth. Their father made very bad choices and now he's going to face the consequences. They're 12 and 14, old enough to understand that actions have results. She paused at the door. For what it's worth, Cameron, your wife really did have feelings for him. The FBI psychologist says that's part of David's method. He makes his victims believe they're special, that they're the exception to his pattern. After Patricia left, Bethany and I sat on opposite sides of the room, not speaking. What happens now? She finally asked. I don't know, I admitted. The divorce papers are real. I filed them Wednesday morning. Can we try to work things out? Now that we know what David really was? I looked at her for a long moment. Beth, you spent 4 months lying to my face. You stole money from our joint account. You planned to spend our anniversary weekend with another man. The fact that he was a criminal doesn't change what you did. But I thought I loved him, she said desperately. I thought he loved me. I thought I was missing something in our marriage. Were you missing something? She was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Maybe. We stopped talking the way we used to. You were always working. I felt invisible. So you fixed that by having an affair instead of talking to me about it? I know it was wrong. It wasn't just wrong, Beth. It was cruel. Do you know what it felt like to read those messages? To see you telling him how much better he was than me? How you couldn't wait to be with him instead of me? She started crying again. I never meant to hurt you, but you did hurt me. For months, and you would have kept hurting me if I hadn't found out by accident. I stood up and walked to the window. The lake was dark now, lit only by the moon and the hotel's landscaping lights. I keep thinking about that night 3 weeks ago when you came home late from your yoga class and I made dinner for us. You were on your phone the whole time, texting him while I tried to tell you about my day. Cameron? I kept telling myself you were just stressed. Work was busy, your mom had been sick, you seemed distracted. I thought if I was more supportive, more attentive, you'd come back to me. I turned to face her. But you were never really gone, were you? You were already somewhere else entirely. That's not true. I still loved you. I still love you. Do you? Or do you love the security I provide? The comfortable life? The fact that I'm safe and stable and will always be here when you need something? She couldn't answer. See, that's the thing, Beth. David might have been using you, but you were using me too. You wanted the excitement of a secret affair and the safety of a marriage. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. I walked toward the door. I'm going back to my room. You should probably call someone to pick you up tomorrow. Your sister, maybe. Or your mom. Where will you go? She asked. Home? Our house. My house now, I guess. My attorney says I have grounds to keep it since you're the one who committed adultery. Cameron, please. Can't we at least try counseling? I'll do whatever it takes. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. 3 months ago, if you'd come to me and said you were unhappy and wanted to try counseling, I would have dropped everything to make it work. But you chose David instead. You chose lies instead of honesty. You chose betrayal instead of communication. People make mistakes, she whispered. Mistakes are forgetting to pick up milk or double booking a dinner reservation. What you did was a choice. Hundreds of choices made every day for 4 months. I opened the door. I'll have my attorney contact you about dividing our assets. Don't come to the house while I'm packing your things. I'll leave them with your sister. Cameron, wait! But I was already walking away. Back in my room, I poured myself a drink from the minibar and sat on the balcony. My phone had been buzzing with messages all evening. My brother, my parents, my best friend. Word travels fast in small towns. I called my brother first. How did it go? He asked immediately. Worse than expected, I said, and told him everything. Jesus Christ, he said when I finished. A federal criminal? Cameron, you dodged a bullet. Did I? Or did I fire it myself by not paying attention to my marriage? Don't you dare blame yourself for this. Bethany made her choices. The fact that she chose a criminal doesn't make it your fault. But maybe if I'd been more attentive. Stop. Just stop. You were a good husband. You worked hard to provide for your family. You loved your wife. None of that made her cheat. I knew he was right, but it didn't make it hurt less. What are you going to do now? He asked. I honestly don't know. Finish the divorce. Sell the house maybe. Start over. You could move closer to us. The kids would love to see more of their uncle. The idea was tempting. My brother lived in Colorado near the mountains. Clean air, fresh start, far away from all the memories. Maybe, I said. Let me get through the next few months first. We talked for another hour before I finally hung up and tried to sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Bethany's face when she realized David had been using her. The shock, the betrayal, the hurt. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The next morning I checked out early and drove home. The house felt different now. Larger and emptier. Every room held memories of our life together. The kitchen where we'd cooked together. The living room where we'd watched movies. The bedroom where we'd planned our future. I started in the bedroom, packing Bethany's clothes into boxes. Her jewelry, her books, her collection of stupid self-help guides that apparently hadn't helped much. In the back of her closet, I found a shoebox I'd never seen before. Inside were printed copies of her messages with David, going back 6 months, longer than I'd realized. There were also photos of them together, receipts from hotels and restaurants, and a notebook where she'd been planning their future life together. The notebook was the worst part. Page after page of her handwriting, detailing how she would leave me, what she'd take from our divorce settlement, how she and David would start their new life. She'd calculated the value of our house, our investments, my business. She'd researched states with favorable alimony laws. This hadn't been a moment of weakness or a temporary lapse in judgment. This had been a calculated plan to systematically destroy our marriage while maximizing her financial gain. I sat on our bed, my bed, and read her plans for my future. According to her notes, I'd be paying her alimony for at least 5 years. She'd get half of everything we'd built together. She'd planned to accuse me of emotional abuse to strengthen her position in court. The phone rang. Bethany. Cameron, I'm at my sister's. I wanted to thank you for packing my things. I haven't finished yet, I said. I also wanted to apologize again. For everything. I know you don't believe me, but I really am sorry. I looked down at the notebook in my hands. Beth, can I ask you something? Of course. When did you start planning to divorce me? There was a long pause. What do you mean? I found your notebook. The one where you calculated how much money you'd get from our divorce. It's dated 6 months ago. Silence. Beth, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you were researching alimony laws before you even met David? Can you explain why you wrote down accusations of emotional abuse that never happened? Her voice got smaller. Cameron, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. David wasn't the beginning of your betrayal. He was just the method. You'd already decided to leave me. You just needed a reason that would make you look like the victim instead of the villain. That's not true. It's all here in your handwriting, Beth. 6 months of planning my destruction. David was just a convenient excuse. I could hear her crying. Cameron, please. It wasn't like that. I was confused. I was scared. Scared of what? That you'd have to get a job? That you'd have to support yourself? That you couldn't live off my success anymore? I supported your career. You spent my money while planning to take half of everything I worked for. That's not support. That's investment fraud. I hung up and called my attorney. Mitchell, it's Cameron. I need to amend the divorce filing. I found evidence that Bethany was planning this divorce long before the affair started. What kind of evidence? I described the notebook and photos. Can this change the terms of the divorce? Potentially. Premeditation goes to intent. If we can prove she entered into the marriage with fraudulent intentions, or that she was systematically planning to defraud you, we might be able to argue for a more favorable settlement. Do it. I'm done being the nice guy. I'll need copies of everything you found. After we hung up, I continued packing. In her vanity drawer, I found more evidence. Printed emails with a divorce attorney from 8 months ago, a credit report she'd run on me to assess my net worth, and a list of my business contacts with notes about their potential value in a custody or alimony fight. Bethany had been planning this for almost a year. The affair with David wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. It was the final phase of a long-term plan to systematically destroy our marriage while positioning herself as the victim. My phone rang again. This time it was Patricia. Cameron, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from the FBI agent. Not at all. How are you holding up? Better than expected, honestly. The kids are upset, but they're not surprised. David hasn't been much of a father lately. I'm sorry you're going through this. Actually, I wanted to thank you. If you hadn't contacted me yesterday, I might never have found out about the other victims. The FBI says there might be as many as 30 women David has targeted over the past 3 years. 30? Jesus. They're calling it a federal racketeering case now. He's looking at 20 to 30 years in federal prison. I felt a grim satisfaction hearing that. What about the other victims? Most of them are relieved to finally understand what happened to them. A lot of them thought they were crazy or that it was their fault. Finding out about David's pattern has been therapeutic for many of them. And your husband's finances? Complete disaster. He owes money to everyone. The IRS, 3 different banks, his landlord, his business partners. The FBI is seizing all his assets as evidence. I'll be lucky to get anything in the divorce. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'd rather be broken free than rich and married to a criminal. We talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. Her resilience was inspiring. She'd lost everything but was still moving forward with her head held high. I couldn't say the same for myself. I felt like I was drowning in betrayal and lies. Every conversation with Bethany revealed new layers of deception. Every box I packed contained evidence of a life that had been built on false pretenses. By Sunday evening, I'd packed everything that belonged to Bethany and loaded it into my truck. I drove to her sister's house and knocked on the door. Bethany's sister, Rachel, answered. She looked embarrassed and uncomfortable. Cameron, I'm so sorry about all this. It's not your fault, Rachel. Is Bethany here? She's inside. Do you want to talk to her? Not really. I just wanted to return her things. Rachel helped me carry the boxes inside. Bethany appeared in the living room doorway, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Thank you for bringing my stuff, she said quietly. There's more in storage, I replied. Your furniture, your art collection, the stuff from your office. My attorney will coordinate with yours to divide the household items. Cameron, can we please talk? Just for a few minutes? I looked at Rachel, who nodded and went into the kitchen to give us privacy. What do you want to talk about, Beth? I want to try to explain why I did what I did. I've seen your notebook. I think I understand perfectly. She winced. It wasn't what it looked like. I was confused and scared, and I thought maybe I needed to protect myself financially if our marriage didn't work out. Our marriage was working fine until you decided to destroy it. No, it wasn't. We were growing apart. You know we were. I sat down across from her. Were we growing apart? Or were you pulling away because you'd already decided to leave? I don't know, she admitted. Maybe both. When did you stop loving me? The question hung in the air between us. Bethany looked out the window, tears streaming down her face. I never stopped loving you, she finally said. But I stopped being in love with you, and I was too much of a coward to tell you. So instead, you decided to have an affair and take half my money. I didn't plan it that way. It just evolved. Bullshit. I found emails with divorce attorneys from 8 months ago. You were planning this before you even met David. She was quiet for a long moment. I was researching my options. That doesn't mean I was planning anything specific. Beth, please, don't insult my intelligence any more than you already have. You calculated my net worth. You researched alimony laws. You made lists of false accusations you could use against me. This was a plan, not a spontaneous decision. I was scared, she repeated. You were so successful, and I felt like I had nothing of my own. If you ever decided to leave me, I'd have been left with nothing. So you decided to leave me first and take everything you could. I didn't take anything. I never even withdrew money from that account with David, only because you got caught before you could. We sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Bethany spoke again. What do you need from me to make this divorce go smoothly? Honesty would be a good start. About what? Everything. How long you've been planning this? How many men there have been besides David? What else you've been hiding from me? She looked shocked. There haven't been other men. David was the only one. The only affair partner? Or the only one you got caught with? Cameron, I swear to you, David was the only one I was ever unfaithful with. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. She seemed sincere, but then again, she'd seemed sincere for the past year while lying to me daily. What about the money? How much did you transfer to that account? $47,000 over 4 months. It was supposed to be for our future together. I thought we were going to start a business. What kind of business? A wellness center. Yoga, massage, counseling. David said he had connections in the industry. More lies. David was planning to disappear with that money. I know that now. Do you? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? Bethany looked directly at me. Cameron, I know you have no reason to believe me, but I need you to understand something. Yes, I was planning to divorce you. Yes, I was trying to protect myself financially, but I never intended to hurt you the way I did. How did you intend to hurt me then? I thought maybe we could have an amicable divorce, split things fairly and remain friends. After falsely accusing me of abuse, I never would have actually made those accusations. They were just insurance, in case you tried to leave me with nothing. Beth, do you hear yourself? You were planning to destroy my reputation and credibility, but only if I didn't cooperate with your demands? That's not insurance. That's extortion. The word hung between us. Extortion. Just like what David had been planning. I never thought of it that way, she said quietly. Maybe you and David had more in common than you realized. That hit her like a physical blow. She doubled over, sobbing. I'm not a criminal, Cameron. I'm not like him. Aren't you? You both planned to manipulate and deceive people who trusted you. You both had backup plans to cause maximum damage if your victims didn't cooperate. The only difference is scale. I stood up to leave. My attorney will be in touch about the settlement. Given the evidence I found, I doubt you'll be getting much alimony. Cameron, wait, please. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that I really did love you. For most of our marriage, I was happy. The person you fell in love with, the woman you married, she was real. I paused at the door. Maybe she was real then, but she hasn't been real for a long time. The woman I've been married to for the past year has been a stranger wearing my wife's face. Can't we try to find her again? I looked back at Bethany one last time. Even now, after everything, part of me wanted to say yes. Part of me wanted to believe we could fix this, that love could overcome betrayal, that marriage vows meant something. But I'd read her notebook. I'd seen her plans. I'd watched her lie to my face while planning my destruction. She's gone, Beth. You killed her when you decided my trust was worth less than your security. I left her crying in her sister's living room and drove home to my empty house. The divorce took 4 months to finalize. My attorney's strategy worked. The evidence of Bethany's premeditated planning significantly reduced her settlement. She got a small lump sum and 2 years of limited alimony, far less than she'd calculated in her notebook. David was sentenced to 28 years in federal prison for racketeering, extortion, fraud, and conspiracy. The FBI's investigation revealed he'd stolen over $2 million from 34 victims across 7 states. Patricia testified at his sentencing hearing about the impact on their family. She was working as a paralegal now and doing well. I sold the house and moved to Colorado near my brother's family, started a new consulting business focused on cybersecurity for small businesses. The work was interesting, and being near my nephews helped fill some of the loneliness. About a year after the divorce was final, I ran into Rachel at the grocery store during a visit back to town. "Cameron, how are you? You look good." "Thanks, Rachel. I'm doing well. How's your family?" "Good, good. The kids are growing like weeds." She paused. "How much do you want to know about Bethany?" I thought about it. "How is she?" "Struggling. She moved back in with your parents. She's working at a real estate office, but it's been hard for her to rebuild her life." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" The question surprised me. "What do you mean?" "I mean, after everything she put you through, would it really bother you if she was struggling?" I considered that. A year ago, I might have felt satisfaction knowing Bethany was facing consequences for her choices. But now, mostly I felt sad for the time we'd wasted and the love we'd destroyed. "I don't wish her any harm," I said finally. "I hope she finds whatever she was looking for when she left our marriage." Rachel smiled. "That's very generous of you." "Not generous, just tired of carrying anger around." We chatted for a few more minutes before parting ways. Driving back to my hotel, I thought about forgiveness and moving forward. I'd spent so much energy being angry at Bethany's betrayal that I'd almost forgotten to grieve the loss of our love. That night, I did something I hadn't done since finding her messages with David. I let myself remember the good times. Our first date, when she laughed so hard at my terrible jokes that she snorted wine through her nose. Our wedding day, when she cried during her vows because she was so happy. The morning I got food poisoning and she spent the whole day taking care of me, bringing me soup and cool washcloths. Those memories belonged to a different version of us, people who had loved each other completely and believed in forever. That love had been real, even if it hadn't lasted. I flew back to Colorado the next morning and never returned to that town again. 2 years later, I met Susan at a coffee shop near my office. She was a children's librarian with kind eyes and a laugh that reminded me what joy sounded like. We took things slowly, very slowly. She knew about my divorce and never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Our first fight was about trust. I'd found a receipt in her purse while looking for lip balm and immediately suspected she was hiding something from me. The receipt was for a surprise birthday gift she'd bought me, but my brain jumped straight to deception and lies. "Cameron," she said gently, "I understand why you're scared, but I'm not Bethany. I'm not going to betray you or lie to you or plan your destruction. You have to decide if you're going to let her continue to control your life from the past." She was right. I was carrying Bethany's betrayal into every new relationship, every interaction, every moment of potential vulnerability. It wasn't fair to Susan, and it wasn't fair to me. "I'm sorry," I said. "I know you're not her. Sometimes I just forget that not everyone has hidden agendas." "Some people do," Susan said, "but most people don't. Most people are just trying to get through their days and love the people in their lives as best they can." We talked about trust and communication and the difference between healthy caution and paralyzing fear. It was the first real conversation about my divorce that didn't leave me feeling angry or bitter. That night, I called my brother. "I think I'm ready to stop being divorced," I told him. "What does that mean?" "I mean, I'm ready to stop letting my divorce define me. I'm ready to be someone who was married, who loved someone, who was betrayed, who survived, and who's moving forward, instead of someone who's just angry about the past." That sounds healthy. It feels scary. New things usually do. 6 months later, Susan and I moved in together. A year after that, we got engaged. Not because we were afraid of being alone or because we needed financial security or because we were trying to recapture something we'd lost. We got engaged because we loved the life we were building together and wanted to keep building it. The night before our wedding, my brother gave a toast at the rehearsal dinner. 5 years ago, my brother's first marriage ended in betrayal and heartbreak. I watched him go through anger, grief, and finally acceptance. But the most important thing I watched him do was choose to remain open to love. He raised his glass. It would have been easy for Cameron to close his heart after what he went through. Instead, he chose to heal, to grow, and to trust again. That choice brought Susan into his life, and their choice to build something together has brought joy to all of us. Looking around the room at our friends and family, I realized something. The story of my first marriage wasn't really about Bethany's betrayal or David's crimes or the divorce that followed. It was about learning that love isn't a guarantee against heartbreak, but heartbreak isn't a guarantee against love. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is trust someone new with the heart that someone else broke. The next morning, Susan and I promised to love each other honestly, communicate openly, and choose each other daily. We promised to build a life based on truth instead of convenience, partnership instead of possession, and growth instead of security. Standing at the altar, looking into Susan's eyes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not hope that nothing bad would ever happen, but hope that whatever did happen, we'd face it together with honesty and courage. That evening, dancing with my new wife under string lights at our reception, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. The man looking back at me was older, wiser, more careful than the man who'd discovered those messages on Bethany's laptop 6 years earlier. But he was also happier, more grateful, and more capable of love than he'd ever been before. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you teaches you the most important lesson you'll ever learn. that you're stronger than you thought, that healing is possible, and that the capacity to love again is one of the most resilient parts of the human heart. I never saw Bethany again after that conversation at her sister's house. I heard through mutual friends that she eventually remarried, a man who owned a small accounting firm. Rachel told me she seemed content, quieter than before, more careful with other people's trust. I hoped that was true. Not because I wanted her back or because I'd forgiven everything she'd done, but because I'd learned that healing from betrayal doesn't require the other person to suffer. It requires choosing to build something better with whatever pieces of yourself remain intact. David served 8 years of his sentence before dying of a heart attack in federal prison. Patricia had remarried by then, a teacher who adopted her children and helped her build a stable, honest life. She sent me a card when she heard about my wedding, thanking me again for helping her discover the truth about her first husband. Sometimes, she wrote, the worst betrayals lead us to the best truths about ourselves. That night, Susan and I lay in bed in our hotel room, exhausted from dancing and celebrating. She was already asleep, curled up next to me, her wedding ring catching the moonlight from the window. I thought about the journey that had brought me here, from a broken marriage to a new beginning, from betrayal to trust, from anger to love. It hadn't been easy or quick or straightforward. There had been setbacks and moments when I thought I'd never feel safe in love again. But here I was, married to a woman who chose honesty over convenience, who communicated instead of manipulating, who loved me not for what I could provide but for who I was becoming. The last thing I thought before falling asleep was that sometimes the best gift someone can give you is showing you exactly what you don't want in a relationship. Bethany had taught me to value honesty, communication, and genuine partnership. David had taught me to trust my instincts and protect what I'd built. And Susan had taught me that it was possible to love again, better than before, with wisdom earned through surviving the worst and choosing to try again anyway. The next morning, we flew to Italy for our honeymoon. As the plane lifted off, I looked down at the city where my first marriage had ended and my new life had begun. From 30,000 feet, it looked small and manageable, just one chapter in a much larger story. I turned to Susan, who was reading a book about Renaissance art, preparing for our first stop in Florence. Any regrets? I asked. She looked up and smiled. About marrying you? Not a single one. Even knowing about all my baggage. Everyone has baggage, Cameron. The question isn't whether you have it, but what you've learned from carrying it. She was right. The betrayal I'd experienced had made me more careful, but it had also made me more grateful for genuine love when I found it. The lies I'd discovered had made me value honesty more deeply. The manipulation I'd endured had taught me to appreciate straightforward communication. I wasn't the same man who'd walked into that hotel room 6 years ago to confront his cheating wife. I was someone who'd been broken and rebuilt, someone who'd learned that surviving betrayal doesn't make you cynical if you choose to remain open to better love. As we flew toward our new adventure together, I realized that the story of my first marriage's ending had really been the story of my second marriage's beginning. Every painful lesson had prepared me to recognize and appreciate the real thing when it came along. Sometimes you have to learn what love isn't before you can fully appreciate what love is. And sometimes the most beautiful chapters of your life are written on pages that were once completely blank after you've learned exactly what story you don't want to tell anymore.